What's up, guys? This is Ed Gregory from photosincolor.com, and we are trying it again. We are live for the second time for another PIC challenge, and today we're looking at your landscapes. Here we go. Okay, so what are these PICLIVE shows? Basically, you send in your photographs and I'm gonna take a look at them and I'm gonna review them right here. Now, if you tuned in a moment ago, then please accept my apologies. I'm very sorry. We had a huge internet failure here. We've had to get on the phone to people and try and get it sorted. It looks like we're all ready to go. So now we're gonna try and be live again. Now, if you wanna send me one of your landscape photos, your very best landscape photo, check the description below, click on that link and upload it live, and I will be receiving them right now on my screen. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna flick through, we're gonna have a look at these images, and I'm gonna review them just for you. Also, one other thing, if you wanna ask me some questions during this live show, all you gotta do is write it in the chat. I believe it's on the right-hand side, and Rosie, she's sitting right here, she is going to be asking me those questions, and I'm going to answer them as well as I possibly can. This live show is your chance to talk to me and ask me questions and allow me to look at your images. We're doing this because I've been asked to do this by a lot of people. Also, before I jump into this, click on the little bell button next to the subscribe button here on YouTube, because that means every time I go live, you'll have a little notification pop up so you can tune in and watch. Okay, without any more chatting, let's jump in and let's take a look at your photographs. So here we go. Let's start here. We're actually starting somewhere different this time to what we did when we were live an hour ago and we failed. So we're looking at here. This is an image sent in by Adam Watson. I love this image. What a absolutely beautiful image that we have here of a bridge over what looks like a river or a lake. Beautifully captured. I really like the composition of setting it over to one side. I think that you did really well with that. Great tone on the colors. You've not overdone it with the greens or the saturation. You've managed to get a nice dark area behind the bridge, which actually allows the bridge to pop out. Honestly, I think this is a really wonderful landscape image. I will say this, there's not a lot going on in the image, but as a static, beautiful piece of architecture to look at, I think you did a really great job there, Adam, so good work. Let's move on. Okay, this is sent in by Alberto Garay. So let's have a look at this. I really like this image. It's really interesting. There's a sun. It looks like it's coming over the top of a water tower or something. Let me just jump over to the develop module and look at the navigator so that we can zoom into one-on-one here. Yeah, it looks like there's some kind of a tower in the field, and there's the sun setting behind it. Composition-wise, I think you did a really, really great job on this. I feel like it's lacking just a little bit of detail in the shadows. I'm gonna lift up the shadows and take a look. So you do have detail in these shadows. So I would just do a little bit of lifting like this, and potentially as well, with this kind of an image, I would crop it, maybe put that water tower smack bang in the middle if that's what we're choosing for, and just crop it in. But a really beautiful image here. Maybe there's a bit of an HDR effect on this. The reason I'm saying this is if you look, there's sharpness over here at the trees, but on the same tree it's blurry above. So my guess is you've added multiple exposures together there. You've done a pretty good job there, and I think that the sun setting is really created a beautiful atmospheric piece. So great work, Alberto. Okay, let's have a look at this. Is Akash. This is a landscape taken in India over a lake. There's a city in the background. No, it's not. It's just rocks in the background. So I really like this. I like the color that's added to it. You got a little bit of red behind, a little bit of the cow on the right-hand side. Again, I think the shadows can be lifted just a hair. And I feel like there's a little bit too much blue going on in the shadows. So a way to deal with that is you could take the color temperature and you could click on the shadows. What often happens is it's going to go too extreme to the other side. That's because when you're shooting here you're shooting towards the sun, so you've got one color temperature, and what's in the shadow is a very different color temperature. So what you can do there is sit somewhere in the middle, so you can just bring that back slightly, and I think that's just lifted the image nicely. Great composition, great image. I probably wouldn't have cut the back end of the cow off had I tried to keep the whole thing in frame, but beautiful photo, really, really nice work. Okay, Anastasis. I actually did this on the live show a second ago where we failed, so I'm going to do it again. Really, really nice shot. I feel like it's a little bit dark. You could just lift it up just a little bit to allow this image to pop and come to life. You're a little unfortunate with the clouds on this, to be honest with you. The sky is a little too dim. You have the sky coming, the sun on the left-hand side. So it's nice, but what I would say, anything like this, if you're trying to photograph a structure, try and get all of it. So you can see with this image, the structure's cut off on both the right and the left. So you kind of want to see it all so you can put it in more context. So that's what I would say with an image like this. Outside of that, really nice photo. Okay, great. This is from Andrea Astengo. What a location. Like, wow, you've obviously hiked to the top of the hill. You're looking down at some lakes. It's a beautiful location. This, for me, though, the editing has had a great effect on this image. You can see the grass color has been altered to this more of a yellow color, unless I'm incorrect and that's how it looks there, but I feel like that's a little too extreme. So if I was to do something about that, I would come down here to the right-hand side and I'd go to the hue of the colors, and inside the yellows, you can see I can actually change those. If you wanted to give it an autumnal feel, you're going to push that towards the oranges, or if you want to bring the greens back, I'm going to go to the right, but it's gone a little bit psychedelic, to be honest with you. So again, I'm going to go into the yellows, and I'm going to pull the saturation down a little bit. And now I feel like we've got a more of a natural looking image. I'm a little stuck playing with what I was sent in, but as an overall image, I think this is stunning. Like, wow, what a location. Let's have a look at the sharpness back here. Really beautiful. Okay, so I can see along the line here, you can see that there's been a substantial amount of sharpening been done to this image. You can see, or it's been cut out. Maybe a different sky has been put in here. In fact, yes, this has been photoshopped to have a new sky put in, which honestly, that's fine. In landscapes, you can do that because sometimes you're not given the right day to take the photograph. Beautiful work. Should we pause? Do we have any questions? Yes, we do. Okay, we're going to go to question time right now and see what we've got. Rosie.
Taylor Green, should photographers advertise that they do all kinds of different types of photography, like landscape and portraits?
Okay. When you are starting off as a photographer, you obviously want to try your hand at many, many different forms of photography. So you might be working on lots of things, but my recommendation is, although you don't need to sit in some box of this is the only thing you do, to market yourself, it's definitely going to help you to be a fashion photographer, a lifestyle photographer, because what happens is people know what to come to you for as opposed to just being like, photographer. So one way around that, if you want to take other jobs, is you take lots of jobs. Basically, if anybody wants to pay you, you take the job, but maybe market yourself, build your website, and really focus on it being something very particular like portrait photography. That would be my recommendation just there. Any more questions?
Yeah, I've got quite a few. Helen Jenkins Knight, what's the best focal length for landscape?
Ooh, Helen, what is the best focal length for landscapes? Well, almost an impossible question to answer because it depends what you're photographing. Usually for a landscape, what you're trying to do is show off the entire scene. So as we looked at an image just back there, then we wanted to see the entire building. So therefore, to see more of a scene, a wider angle lens is what you're going to shoot at. My favorite lens to shoot on is the Nikon 14-24. It's a super wide angle lens, and what it doesn't do, it doesn't have any distortion on it. It's a remarkable lens. So I would definitely aim for a wide angle lens when shooting landscapes. But I wouldn't say that that's all, that like you're not wrong if you want to shoot, for example, a 70 to 200, sit on one side of a mountain range and photograph a tree on the other side or get into a certain section. That is still landscape photography. But as a general rule, I would definitely go for a wide angle lens. One more question, then we're going to get back into looking. We've got loads of photos coming in as well, which is really exciting.
Philip Shepherd, why does it seem like my landscapes are always soft?
Okay, why does it seem like my landscapes are always soft? Usually with that it's the lens that you've got on your camera. So if you're shooting with a lens that comes with your camera, so a kit lens as they're known, they're usually pretty soft lenses. Now, I'll give a very quick explanation of how this works, is that there's lots of bits of glass inside a lens. As the image goes through, it applies an image onto the sensor. Now, the sharper the glass, the sharper that the image comes through, the sharper it's rendering on a sensor. And to be really clear about this as well, is you can have a sensor which is, say, I've got the Nikon D850, it's 47 megapixels. These images are huge. But if I put a soft lens on, so a kit lens or a cheaper lens, I'm not going to be able to capture a full 47 megapixels of detail because I'm going to get that blur. So that would make it an equivalent to, say, a 24 meg sensor. So basically it's probably the lens that you are using. You're not quite getting the sharpness there with it. Even if you manually focus, if the lens isn't sharp, then you're never going to get those results. Okay, let's jump back in down here, and we're going to be looking at this image from Anis Khan. I love this photograph. I feel like you have done a really, really great job of this. We've got a slow shutter speed, and that means that the pouring of the water is captured. So let's talk about this a second when doing landscape photography and how this works. Basically, what you've got is you're taking a photograph, but there's moving parts in it. So if you have a slow shutter speed, those moving parts become blurred. When photographing a waterfall, that's how you give the idea that the water is falling down, but it keeps everything that isn't moving nice and sharp. So this image here, perfect example of this. We zoom in, rocks are beautifully sharp, water is beautifully blurry. I think the edit on this is wonderful. There is the sun coming down between the trees above. It's lighting up the little lake, the water down at the bottom. It's giving this golden feel. This is fantastic. Really great work. I love it. It's the golden edit on this for the water is perfect. So great work on that. Okay, let's look at this from Anuvab Sahar. Okay, I like this. So there's some great talking points about this image. First of all, as I mentioned before, what we've got here is the subject that we're looking at is, we can't see it all. Half of the bridge is cut off. So I would always suggest if you're taking a picture of something, try and get all of it, unless it's a very specific area, like the top corner of it or something. The other thing here, although it's into the sun and kind of at sunset, it's just, in my opinion, it's just too yellow. So I would want to go up here to the temperature, and I'd want to add a little bit of blue and kind of make it a little bit more realistic. Probably lift up the exposure on this image, something like this, maybe bring the yellows back a hair. So this, already it's looking a little bit more interesting, but probably with an image like this as a silhouette, do it in black and white. You can get some beautiful images when you're shooting into the sun by turning it black and white. So that's always an option. Okay, moving on. Christian Axelsen. What a cool name. And what a cool photo. Wow, congratulations on this. This is another example of a long exposure. And what's great about this, you've blurred out the water. It looks like the ocean. It might be a lake, but I think it's the ocean. You've blurred that out with the long exposure, but also it's so long that the clouds in the sky have also blurred out, which for me is fantastic. And what that does is it adds this sharpness and crispness to the rock itself. So this is a great, great image. I may have lifted the shadows just a hair on this to bring in the beach down here just a little. And I also feel like the rock itself is a little yellow. I don't know that the rock would be that yellow. Now, if I was to use the color picker on this, it's going to make the image go way too blue, so that isn't recommended here. I would maybe either pull down the yellows a hair like so, or I'd go into the brush module and I would literally bring down the yellows in the temperature and just paint over this here. Let me see if I can increase the flow and just paint over the image like so, just to kind of bring that down a little bit. I would also mask it out and everything. But apart from that, I think this is a stunning image and really, really well done, Christian. Okay, let's look over at this image. Beautiful photograph, vibrant colors, a really great example of a landscape. Again, I'd like to see more. I'm in the mountain range and we're a little bit tight into just the lake. I'd kind of want to see a little bit more on this image, in my opinion. Another way to give it the effect of seeing more is you can make it into a slightly wider screen, a wider screen crop, just like that, just to bring in that focus a little bit. Beautiful colors of the water. I think this has been edited a little bit in post maybe, but overall a beautiful image. You've managed to capture the highlights in the sky and the shadows of the rocks with a fantastic edit. So Cyril Chiquette, congratulations, beautiful. Okay, so we've got another sunset shot. We're shooting straight into the sun. We've got the lens flare. I love this from Daniel Dasgard. It's a little dark though. We've got a little too much focus on the sun. If we're gonna go for a full silhouette, then I'd aim for a silhouette. For me, I'd probably wanna lift up the shadows and let's have a look in the foreground. I wonder if we could even boost the exposure up and pull back the blacks. And now let's look at the before and the after. I feel like this instantly has changed this image and now it's more dynamic. I'm able to look into the image a little more. Maybe a little washed out for some people, but I think beautiful image. Composition-wise, I think you've done a really good job. Really, really good job there. Shall we get into some more questions?
Yes.
Okay, question time. Here we go.
Well, I'm going to do two in one because they're asking similar questions, or two of them. So you've got a couple of requests to do black and white tutorials.
Black and white tutorials, I will make one of those for sure. I actually have one for Lightroom on my channel. Just search photos in color black and white, but I'll do a few more in-depth ones.
I'm just going to say these questions together because they're very similar.
Yeah, go for it.
So someone is asking, can you earn by doing landscape photography? And then someone else is saying, how do we make money doing landscape photography? I'm not good with people.
Okay. How do you make money being a landscape photographer? That age-old question, how do you make money as a photographer? Well, first of all, somebody's coming to there, they're not good with people, so how do you make money? The great thing about landscape photography is you spend a lot of time by yourself taking photos. To make money as a landscape photographer, really the main way you're going to do it is take the photographs and try and sell them afterwards. What that means is you're doing all the legwork first for free, and then you're hoping to sell them afterwards. You can sell them on stock photo websites, or you can try and get a gallery exhibition somewhere and get some features there. The other option is to take photos of specific things and sell them to newspapers directly. So in your local area, you might say, oh, hey, something's happened to, this mountain range is special. Maybe talk to the local media agencies and see if you can sell it to those guys. I'm not a landscape photographer in terms of to make money. I shoot a lot of landscapes, but for me, it's for pleasure. Because finding clients in landscape photography, I think, is that little bit harder. You have to make a name for yourself. But don't let that discourage you. The main thing is take photos and share them and share them and share them and get people to love them. Okay, if they love your work, they will buy them. And also start small. Sell to people in your local area. Have a small exhibition just at a local church or a local community center and sell your prints for $10, $12 a print. And then work your way up to selling them for hundreds or thousands. Yep, another question,
Yeah.
then we'll get back into this.
If Lightroom can help us in improving image quality, then why do we need to buy expensive lenses?
Okay, if Lightroom can help improve quality, why do we buy lenses? Two very, very different things. Lightroom can only do something with an image from the data that was captured. So what you can't do is just add things in Lightroom. You can't just make something 5 times bigger or 3 times sharper. That comes from the sensor and your lens. So Lightroom is a last resort kind of thing. You will go in there to make some edits 100%, but it's not going to improve your photography. It's not going to make things better. You have to do that as a photographer with the best equipment that you can afford. So on the other side of it is, don't worry about really expensive equipment. You can do amazing things with cheap equipment. So that's the thing is, but Lightroom and lenses, Lightroom can only edit what your lens captures. That's it. So buy great lenses. Full stop. Okay, let's jump back into some more edits over here. Where did we get up to? Sorry, I lost my place here. I'm gonna whip through some of these. Okay, let's take a look at this one here by Dave Miller. Beautiful shot, nice depth on the mountain range. We've got a really interesting subject matter of an old broken fence. Beautifully sharp. I think it's a great image. Toscana, maybe that's Tuscany in Italy. If I got that wrong, apologies. I really like the sky. It's a really beautiful image. So congratulations, like good work. Maybe lifting it a little bit. Again, a little bit dark for me. Just lift it up. And also watch your clarity. I think you've a little bit too much contrast here, in my opinion, but really great work. Okay, let's look at this from Dawn Shearer. Great image. Unfortunately, the image size and quality of this is very low, so I can't really get into it and have a look. But you've captured a lot. You've got a beautiful leading line of the road going through. It's obviously autumn. I think there's been some manipulation of colors to bring those reds out in the trees and everything. But overall, a really great image. Something to watch out on images like this with lots of clouds is often the horizon gets dark. So you see the middle of the image, there's like a darker strip straight across the middle. So you can just lift your shadows to boost those out, or you can actually take the brush and you can lift the shadows just a little bit, like so, and then just basically draw a line across it like so, just to lift out that middle section. Now that was very quick that I did that, but that's my belief on there. So great work done. Let's keep going through. Filippo Missio. Great image. I like this. You've got the reflection of the mountains on what looks to be a very still lake. Looks a little over-processed though. I don't know what this was taken on. My guess it was actually taken on a phone. I might be incorrect on this. No, it wasn't 50 millimeters. It doesn't tell me the camera. Oh, it was a Canon 600D. Okay, so I feel like with this, it's just a little bit dark. It's a little bit dark, and I feel like maybe it's too contrasty. You've boosted your colors maybe too much. Yeah, I'm just gonna whip through here and see what I can do. Okay, that's brought it back to life a little bit. We muted the colors in some places, lifted them in others, and it became a little bit flat for me. But overall, you've captured a beautiful lake and you've got a great reflection there, which is always great in landscape photography to get those reflections. Wow. So this here is exactly what I spoke about, and this is capturing those reflections of a lake. Now, I don't know if this was done in post-production or if this was actually a lake that was this still. Either way, my initial response was fantastic. I'm gonna say that this was done in post-production. The reason is the birds in the sky. So the reflection of the birds in the water would probably be a different shape and a different angle from the reflection to what they are from the camera's point of view. So that would be my giveaway there. That means that this was done in post-production. But saying that, you've created a great image and it's definitely something to look at. Again, if you're gonna go for a silhouette, maybe get rid of all other colors apart from the orange, just to kind of make it a real silhouette. But great work either way. That was Florin Andre. Okay, this image, whoa, what a beautiful black and white. So this is a great example of drama in an image. You've got the clouds, which are like overbearing, coming over the mountains, beautiful line of trees and a lake in front. This is what I like to call a layered landscape. Not as in photographed then layered, but as in the composition. What we're looking at is layering the focus from the eye. So as you start at the bottom, you've got a lake, you move up to a little beach area, up to the trees, up to the mountains, up to the sky. It keeps on going. So Franco DF, wonderful work here. I just think you've done a great job. Really, really, really great job. Do we have questions?
Yes.
Okay, let's go for questions. I feel like the questions are really helpful for you guys, so let's jump into those.
How do we realize we are not overdoing it? Is there any limits in each tools to not go over the limits to avoid any overdoing for beginners?
Okay, how do you overdo things in Lightroom? My experience with this is do an edit, get it to a place that you really like it, then the following day come back and have another look with a fresh eye. Remember, often when we're learning, what we always say to people, I'm sure you guys have done it, I've done it many times, I'll show somebody an image and then I want to show them the original and like go, look, this was the original, this was my edit. Don't do that. Like strictly just don't do that, because what that means is you're showing off some editing. And so you end up pushing an image to show off what you can do in Lightroom. Instead, an image should stand alone without seeing, oh, I made all of these changes. So is there a hard and fast rule to doing edits in Lightroom? Not really, because it's very particular to an image. But if you're pushing a slider to 100% of something, you've probably gone too far. So if I use this one as an example, the image we were looking at, if I say, for example, let's lift the shadows, it's a very easy example. So if I go all the way to 100%, I've clearly overdone it. But if I wanted to do that, I don't want to go to 100%. So instead what I might do, instead of lifting the shadows, I might lift the exposure a little bit, which gives me a similar effect, and then I could bring down my highlights. So what that has done is essentially, well, I've gone 100% on the highlights there, but I bring down the highlights a little bit. So what I've done is raised the edit of the entire image through the exposure and brought back the highlights as opposed to 100% of my shadows. So within Lightroom, different tools can affect things in different ways. So if you've gone 100% on a slider, you may have gone too far. And if you can see the edit, you may have gone too far. And if you do an edit and you come back the next day and you're like, oh, I've gone too far, then you might have gone too far. One final note on going too far, it is subjective. Editing is subjective. Everybody's got their own idea of what they want it to be. You know, you've got all sorts of different photographers out there that have very, very different styles. If we just talk about two basic landscape photographers that are great, you've got Ansel Adams that would shoot in black and white, shoot on these massive things, and the colors were kind of strong, but it was very obvious to what he was shooting. Then you've got another great landscape photographer from today who is PICLIVE, and what he is doing is focusing everything on bright colors, and so it's very different ends of the spectrum, but equally as good. So really think about that. Have a look at the artists that you want to aspire to be like and compare your images to them. That's what I would do. Okay, we have more photographs coming in, which is really exciting. I'm gonna jump over here and let me reset this image because I don't wanna edit that. I think it was great. Okay, this is from John Barney Erlandson. Wow, this almost looks like a painting. Maybe this was created in post-production using a different sky, but either way, this is another a layered landscape, as I call it. You got the grass in the foreground, lake in the middle, trees, then a dramatic sky. Clearly use the rule of thirds. If we put on this grid here, you can see the bottom, third has all of the land in it. Then you've got 2 more thirds, dark blue sky into a white sky at the top. This is a great example of using thirds and really making it work. Looks like an oil painting. Like, great work, beautiful. Another example, again, of great work. You guys are really good at landscape photos. I love this. Slow shutter speed. So what you're doing is you're getting all of those waterfalls. I would have liked to have seen the bottom waterfall to actually see where it's hitting, so you could have got a little more of that. My guess is your lens wasn't wide enough and you wanted to get the top of the mountain. This is Jose JJ. What I would probably do with this image is I'd pull the highlights back, so it's gonna give me something more in the sky. And maybe they've gone a little bit too far. And what I will do to help the sky as well, this is a great tip. You take your blues in the luminance and you pull it backwards, so that makes the blues darker, and then you take the blue in the saturation and you lift it slightly. So what you can see to the sky, before and the after, what we did is we just brought that sky alive. Now, we also affected the water down here, so we could come into the brush tool and we could double click the effect to reset and probably just take out the saturation. That's all you'd need to do, so that the water then is nice and white and not quite as blue. You see, I've not taken the saturation out 100%. I'm not going to do a big job of this, but just so you can see what I would work towards. By doing something like that, I feel like the difference is we've just brought this image back to life a little bit. I'm actually going to bring up the highlights in the whites down there in the water. There we go, before and after. But Jose JJ, really wonderful job. Let's keep moving. Wow, another beautiful landscape. You've managed to get the foreground, you've managed to get the sky, you've got the rock on the top, you've got the sun setting. Absolutely everything in this image is exactly what we want to see in a fantastic photograph. Probably not that much post-production was needed to be done. And if we zoom in, it almost looks to me like it's misty. Now that might be because there was a long shutter speed and the water was moving a lot, or maybe there was some kind of a white mist that was going over there. Either way, that for me is a beautiful landscape. One that I'd want to print and stick in a living room. Really beautiful work there. And also let's jump back on this and look at the rule of thirds here, just so that we talk about this. You can see you've got this, which is pretty much bang on the top third, and also the rock is the second third, on that cross section just here. So it's a perfect example of doing that. Now let's talk about rule of thirds for a moment. Learn them, then break them. A lot of people just want to break rule of thirds. They are a great way to start in photography. And also, you see it in professionals' work all the time. You don't have to restrict yourself to it, but you can see in some of these images, it just works. It just works. Okay, moving on. I'm going to crank through a load here. They're just so great, these images. Max Musterman, beautiful image. We've got the subject in the foreground, a beautiful sunset in the background, a perfectly calm lake. I mean, what a beautiful shot. You've managed to get a nice wide feel of this to really show off the landscape. As I mentioned before, that's a great way to just show off more, make it feel like we're seeing more of the vista, is to just crop in the top and bottom. I think this is a perfect example of having a subject inside a landscape. Great work, Max. Okay, so now we've got Maximilian Kuhl. I may have said your name wrong, I'm sorry. Beautiful photograph. So this has some subjects of some horses. We've got a sunset. I'm gonna say you've done quite a lot of processing on this image. You've added the sun to the back there quite clearly, and then you've added a blue gradient filter here. Initial look, it makes it look great, but as soon as you start breaking it down, it brings in just a few elements that make it look not real. So I would definitely be careful of something like that with landscapes. Go ahead and edit, but don't overdo it. But nice work, Maximilian. Really, really great composition there. Okay, striking to look at. I think you've just overdone it. I think that the colors are just too much. The greens, you've basically done everything to an image. So when you edit, don't feel like you have to touch every slider. Sometimes when I get into editing, I don't touch hardly any of the sliders. I'll touch 2 or 3. You don't feel like you have to do everything. They've changed the color, they've changed the saturation, then they've added a vignette. So there's just a lot going on with this image. So for Matic, I would say just pull back a little bit on your editing, in my opinion. Your greens, for example, I'd pull back here the saturation just a little bit, and maybe even lift your greens down here to bring back the field a little bit. So we've saved that a bit, and now we've got this pink bit in the sky. Just don't think it's particularly necessary, but I do think that you've created a lot of drama and you clearly have a style. So if this is what you're going for, good for you. So great work. Okay, let's look at this. This is from Morgan Stoltz. This is a beautifully peaceful landscape. It's really, really nice. I like the way the sun's coming through. To get those beams coming through like that, usually you're shooting with a nice wide open aperture. The reason is that's how you get those beams of light. And as we look in here, we can see we're at f16. So if you were to shoot that at f2, that would be a blur. Whereas when you increase your f-stop, that's how you get the streaks of light. So really great work on this. You obviously timed it perfectly. You got the beautiful, I don't even know what that is. Is it a work of art, a sculpture? Either way, you've done a really great job of showing it off. Heavy vignetting to bring in the focus, and on this image, I really don't mind it. I think it really highlights everything. So Morgan, great work. Let's do 2 more, then we're gonna get back into some questions. So Pranesh Patil, this is a really great photograph on an island. I may have tried to do a bit of a cleanup on the beach if I wanted it to look more of a pristine island. If you wanted to capture it as is, I think it's great. A little heavy though, a little heavy for the image. So what I would want to do, a lot of these I'm actually lifting the shadows, I've noticed today. And then the green of the trees seems a little much, so I'm going to pull it back on the green towards the yellows, and I'm just going to pull back the saturation of the green just to make it a little bit more realistic. And then let's come into the blues. And what we can actually do here is lift the aqua, and actually down here, the aqua will lift the luminance, and look at what I can do to the ocean. So I can actually lift that and make it a little bit more serene. As an image though, I really like it. Nice work. One more before we go to some questions. This image is stunning. This image is absolutely stunning. I don't know who you are, RB, but this is a stunning image. I'm just gonna try lifting. I wanna have a look inside this at the exposure. Yeah, I don't know if this is an HDR or not, but you have captured a massive amount of information here. And wonderful depth of field as well. It seems sharp throughout. Again, I'm gonna go for an f22. It is f22, look at that. Great work. I absolutely love what you've done here. You can tell that because you've got the streaks from the sun again. That's how you can always see that it's a high f-stop. Great work. Maybe I would just lift it a tiny bit. Maybe the greens, what I would do is rather than lifting the exposure like so, or lifting the shadows, instead what I would do is take the greens and I would lift the luminance. Let's see if we can actually do that. Might be sitting the yellows. Okay, so if I lift the yellows, it's gonna bring it out a little bit, but I wouldn't do so much to that. Really great work. Okay, question time.
Marion is asking, can we do a wedding photography review in the coming weeks?
Yes, we'll do a wedding photography review in the coming weeks. Don't know when, but I will let you know. Probably not next week. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next week, but it'll come live tomorrow. But I've got some ideas. In a couple of weeks, we will do wedding photography.
Someone's saying, why does it sometimes, why do I sometimes get noise, not very sharp, during the day when you use a sharp lens and low ISO?
So why are you getting noise when you've got low ISO and a new, what lens was it? A sharp lens.
A sharp lens.
Okay, so you got a sharp lens, I don't know which one it is, but there's lots of sharp lenses out there. If you're getting noise, then with a low ISO, then your camera is creating noise. So maybe, it all depends, maybe you've got a crop sensor camera that doesn't deal well with light. Maybe it's an older camera, or maybe if you're not exposing correctly as you're editing, what you're doing is you're bringing noise out in the image by pushing the image too much. Now, if you're shooting in great JPEG and then you try to edit, you're gonna introduce a lot of noise, but it's not actual noise, it's digital noise, it's JPEG artifacts. So that's why you've always got to be shooting in RAW, and maybe you just need to upgrade your camera in that regard, yeah.
Okay. Is there a difference between Canon and Nikon color space? People saying that Nikon have more color than Canon. Please, can you explain?
Okay, color space, does Nikon and Canon have different color space? And does Nikon have more than Canon? Okay, let's talk very briefly about color space. Color lives inside a 3D spectrum with lots of different colors within it. There is sRGB, which is, say, this big, and then you've got sRGB 1998, which is a bit smaller. You've got Pro RGB, or Pro Photo, maybe it's called. I think it's Pro RGB, which is even bigger, so it can hang on to more colors. So that was created by Adobe. Now, what your camera is doing is capturing as many colors as it possibly can. Now, to my knowledge, Nikon and Canon don't capture different colors within the space, but they see color slightly differently. So for example, I think that Canon sees color a little bit warmer, which is why sometimes skin tones look really beautiful. Nikon a little bit cooler, a little bit on the magenta side on some of the older cameras. The new D850 that I have, I just see like exact color that I see with my eyes. It seems to generate it perfectly. But remember, when you're working with color space and getting really technical with that, you have to take into account the camera you're shooting on, the screen that you're editing on, the screen that you're viewing it on, because color is generated differently each time. So the main thing is, once you are using a camera and you learn how it copes with color, you will then adjust your editing to it. So I hope that made a little bit of sense. I might make a video on color space at some point. One more question.
Okay, a question from Taylor. When I do long exposure for waterfalls, my image always comes out way too bright. What settings should I be using?
Aha. So you are trying to get one of these photos where the waterfall is, it's all coming down, and you, like we've seen today, the long exposures of the waterfalls. Why is your image too bright? Basically, you're just overexposing your image. So for you to achieve that, if you're having a longer shutter speed, you then need to edit one of the other two things in the exposure triangle, which is the ISO or the aperture. So simply put, if you want to have a shutter speed of 1 second, then you might have to bring your ISO to the very lowest, which might be 100, it might be 160, it might be 62, so whatever the lowest ISO is you can, then you get your shutter speed nice and long. So then the only thing you've got to change is the aperture. So then just increase your aperture. So if you're on f5.6, then get your aperture up to f8 or f11, and then see until you get that exposure correct. Okay, let's jump back into some of these images. We've got loads of images today, which is great. Beautiful image, very blue, very green. Love the image as a whole. I can see there's a castle back here. I either want to see more or less of that castle. So basically, get in tighter and show me the castle, or get out wider and show me more of the lake. But outside of that, you've captured the clouds, you've not overexposed the clouds. It's a beautiful composition, great work. It looks like it may be a little skew-if though. That looks a little bit better to my eyes. Great work from Raphael Zmer. Okay, let's have a look at this. Rick Hafele, if that's your name. Great image. Okay, so this one, you've managed to capture the sun coming through the clouds back there. You've got the cornfield in the foreground. The only thing that I would have watched with this is you've lost a little bit of color in the sky. It's gone very dark to very blue. That may have been because of a vignette. So I may have lost the vignette on an image like this and allowed me to see all of it. But for me, it looks like one of those photographs, you know, on a Windows computer. I think it was like Windows 98 and you had that field. This is like that. It's just beautiful. Well captured, great composition. Okay, from Sankara Narayanan. Oh, God, so sorry about your name there. I really like this. This is, maybe it's because it's got the white border, but it looks like a postcard to me, or an old Polaroid or something. You've really washed out the colors. You've added new pastel colors to the image. I'm not always a fan of this, but for me, I look at this and I feel like I'm in Miami or LA straight away. It's like a cool hipster feel. Great work. It's got great style. So good work on that one. Let's take a look at this one. Sayak Chandra. Another long exposure. Now this, we've captured something which is a challenge with this, is we have the boat which has been moving. So as you have got a long exposure, what you've got is the boat has been moving around as well, so that's gone out of focus. A way around that is you can take a short exposure and composite it in Photoshop. All like you've done is own it, and it kind of just adds that mystery to the image. I think the image as a whole is just that little bit dark, which I think you've done to bring in the colors of the sky. I would personally lift the whole thing up like so, and then I just take a hold of the yellows and I just pull those back a tiny little bit over here so it brings back the sky. Outside of that, beautiful pastel colors. Great work, Sayak. Next image. Wow, you guys are fantastic at using long shutter speeds in your landscapes. It's another one with water. It's a great way to capture movement. I would suggest this one. It looks to me like there's quite a lot of the clarity tool used over here. It's a little bit too sharp for me, but overall the composition, it draws you into that building. Really, really beautiful job. Great work. Oh, that was from Sebastian Labinsky. Thank you. Sergio Hasa. Okay, so this is a landscape. I see what you've gone for here. I think that we just need to see more of it. It's too kind of close and we've got the reflection, but we're not seeing the edge of the reflection. So with images like this, we just want to see more wide angle lens, or take multiple shots, create a panorama, stitch it together. That's what I'd do with that one. Wow, we captured a rainbow over the top of a waterfall. Now, I'm going to hesitate when I say this, but what I really want to see is whoever's taking this photograph to be closer to the edge. But I probably shouldn't say that because we don't want to be risking people's lives. But for me, the challenge with this image, although it's beautiful that we've got a rainbow, although we've got some waterfalls, it feels safe. And an image with so much power in it, I want to feel the power. So I don't know what else to say there. I'm not going to recommend that people hang off the edge of mountains to take great photos, but that's what I'm seeing in this image. But Queen Goo, great work though for just being there and capturing a rainbow. That's wonderful. Let's look at this. So this is an example of a waterfall photo which doesn't use a fast shutter speed. And what you end up with, let's get in nice and tight here. So, let's just flip this around here. It's coming like this. You can see that you can see every drop of water. Whereas, in my opinion, something like this, what I'm going to want to see is that blur. It's just going to add that effect to it. You've also cut off the barn above. So, Charlene, I see that you want to capture the waterfall, but show me where it is. Okay, let's talk about that for a moment. Inside landscapes, that's kind of a thing, is sometimes a lot of the time, if you're showing something in a landscape, I want to see where it is. Show me more, like show me its location and where is it. So this is a great example of that. Okay, let's keep moving through. Let's see here. Okay, from Sandant Medan, this is a great example of showing all of it. So really wonderful. The mountains got some details. The sky is very blue. I might have just pulled out that blue a hair on this. I think it's a little too saturated compared to the mountains. But we're seeing a nice desert floor. I don't know if that's an airport runway or something. Either way, I think this shows the drama, the scale, the remoteness. Great work. Okay, let's see. I've got a lot to get through today, so I'm going to have to push through a little bit to get through all of these. Sujay Krishmurthy. Sorry, that's probably not how you say your name. Great image. Really like this. I feel like we're just a little bit dark. We've just got to show me more. Show me what I'm looking at. Okay, so we're looking at a tower with things. So I can bring that way high like that, bring back my highlights, and then come down to the blues. And let's just bring back the blues like so. And now if we look at the before and the after, we've just brought back the image a little bit. We've got lots of artifacts going on here. It's because I'm editing a JPEG. I wouldn't have put the tower in the middle. Personally, I'd put it off to the side and Seedmore Lake to get rid of the walkway on the left-hand side. But overall, a well-captured image. Okay, so now we've got a cityscape. We've exposed for the lights of this. Quite a noisy image, but that's because it was taken at night. I personally may have gone for a lower ISO and a longer shutter speed on this. Would mean that you could get the ocean out here a lot more blurry, and you'd have got a better reflection of the building. But overall, really great shot. But I would say one more time, I want to see the whole cityscape. We're kind of on the left-hand side. We're not quite getting all of it, so show me more. Show me more, dude. That's from Greece. Tell me more. It's tell me more. Oh, well, never mind. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get some more questions, and then we're going to have to call this soon, but I'm going to get through as many more as I can. We've got loads coming in today, which is really exciting, considering it's only our second live show.
What is a perfect number between saturation and vibration on Lightroom?
Vibrancy. Saturation and vibrancy on Lightroom. It says vibration. I think we need vibrancy. So what is the perfect setting? There is no perfect setting inside Lightroom, but let me give you a bit of a demonstration. A great way, so let's come back to just another image that we have already looked at. Oh, we have so many images coming in. It's so exciting. Okay, well, let those come in. Let me talk to you for a while. If you boost your saturation, I would go no more than 20, no more than 10 really, because it really kind of starts oversaturating everything. Instead, use the vibrance slider, boost that up to say 20 and pull down the saturation by say 5 or 10. And that's going to give you a really nice balance of giving some color, but not overdoing it. But really the way to do it is ignore those sliders and go down and do it individually per channel. So you've got your reds, oranges, yellows, green, aqua, blue, purple, and magenta, and you can independently change the saturation, the color hue, and the luminance of those. So that's where I would spend more time. Okay, let's jump in and do some more edits. No, some more looking at stuff. Like, wow, look at that. That is fantastic. Okay, let me skip through as many of these as I can. Okay, let's look at this. This is like a oil painting. Tobias Wamgasanch. It's not how you say your name, is it? I love this. I think this is like a painting. I think I would crop it. I think I would bring it in and I'd put the boats right on that 1/3 line and I'd just bring in that focus a little bit more. But you've captured the sun coming in here and it's created this haze. Honestly, Tobias, this is a fantastic example of a landscape that just carries emotion. Beautiful. Okay, here we have a little bit of a challenge from Chasey Edwards. I see what you're doing. You've nailed your color completely. You've nailed so much in this image. The problem is we're not wide enough. So we've got the reflection down below, but we've cut off the trees above. So that's something with composition. If you're gonna show me a reflection of something, show me what it's a reflection of. So you just need a wider angle lens to pull out more. And you've also got the beautiful mist over here, so it's probably misty at the top over there. Outside of that, that may have just been a restriction of your lens. So let's say that that's true. Color and everything else, you've nailed it. One way to get around the restriction of a lens is to take 4 or 6 photographs and create a panorama. Let's talk about panoramas in Lightroom and in Photoshop. A panorama doesn't have to be a series of images this way. You can actually increase the size of an image by taking 4 images like so and stitching it. So always remember that you can do that. Okay, keep going. Wow, what a strong photo. This is Trish Hintz. Beautiful, beautiful photo. Lots of saturation on this. And you know what? In this circumstance, I don't mind it. I mean, for me, it's too far, but I've seen what you've gone for. And, you know, it's had a great, great effect. So, you know, great work on this. Really, really nice. Okay, so I see what you're doing here. Nice, but you've cut off the top of the tree, which is meaning like I don't quite know what's happening at the edge of it. It's kind of, instead of it being a feature of the image, it's cut the image in half. So if something is going through an image, unless it's a very specific like architectural photo or something, try and have the end of it so you're showing it as an item as opposed to just cutting up your image. Outside of that, really nice. I wouldn't have done the gradient at the top for the sky because what you've actually done is you've gone over the stick as well, so it's created a kind of a strange gradient with that. But nice. Okay, so this is from Ezra Serpak. Nice photo. I see what you're doing is that you want the leading line to take us down here. We have some challenges. We've overexposed this area to try and expose in here. I instead would have exposed for the highlights inside here. Or let me just reset this. It looks like I've already looked at it. So I would instead have brought back the highlights, but you've overexposed it, unfortunately. Brought up the shadows. And honestly, what I've done with this, I would have laid down on the floor. And I would have got the drama of the image by having that walkway right down the middle of the image, but lower on the floor gives a little bit more scale to it. Nice idea, beautiful location, just get lower. Okay, these are hard photos because we're somewhere high, we want to show the vista, but we also want to show that we're standing above it. So you can see there's a point of a rock in front of this photo. I would have stood on that so that you're further out towards it. For me, there's too much land at our level and not enough of the vista to the right. Outside of that, editing wise, Heidi, really, really nice work on the editing. A little overdone on the sky for the blue in my opinion, but outside of that, great work. So this is a landscape. It's more of a cityscape, this one. I'd have looked at using the upright tool for this because we're really pushing in on the side here. Let me show you how that works. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to always select lens corrections first before you use this. Oh, we can't actually find the camera. But then if I go guided, I can draw one down this side of the building and one down the other side, and automatically it's going to straighten up my buildings. And if I put constrain crop, it will now crop it within that. And basically, that's what we'd end up with. It's not perfect because we've not got quite enough of the information, but that's what I would do with something like this. And also, you gotta clean your sensor or your lens. It's really dirty. But overall, composition-wise, really nice image. Okay, landscape, we've gone for a sky. A sky, in my opinion, is either only a sky or it's a sky with the ground beneath. Here you've kind of split the difference. You got mostly sky and then just kind of the top of some hills. I want to see the ground. I want to see the bottom of it to give it a location. That's from Luke Blasi. But nice work on the colors and you've really pushed that, but just give me more of the image. Okay, another long exposure. This one's black and white. Lots of focus down at the front here as it drifts away to this overbearing. It shows the scale of this image. I think it's really great. One thing, well, we've got the blacks down here. As it's a black and white image though, I think I want to bring down those blacks. Like when it's black, show me black. That's better. Before and after, yeah, we just brought in those blacks just a little bit there. We're going to keep going through a few more. Rosie, any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got loads of questions today. Let's go for it.
What is your thoughts on phone photography?
My thoughts on phone photography, cell phone photography, do it, use it, love it. It's amazing. People love to compare phone cameras to professional grade cameras. There is no comparison. They're very different. They do different things. They interact with light differently. Their lenses do very different things. However, are they equally as valid as forms of photography and can be used professionally? 100%. 100%. Just don't expect to get DSLR results from a phone camera. Equally, don't expect to get phone camera results from a DSLR. They interact differently. Okay, another question?
Yeah. What is more important, a better content of an image or a better quality in terms of sharpness and resolution?
What is more important, content or quality? Content. Every single time. I can look at a beautiful photo of nothing and I just don't care. But if something is interesting, then I'm in. You know, it's like, oh, can I figure it out? And that's basically, when you look at reportage photography or you look at photography that is used for the media, for newspapers, often they're not focusing on quality. They're trying to get as good quality as they can, but they're focusing on context. Context is everything, your storytelling as a photographer. So before everything, think story and then get the best quality as you possibly can. Okay, let's jump back in. I'm going to whip through some of these because I want to make sure I get to as many of these as I can. I love this photo. It's really great. It's a little washed out. I would just bring back some colors. So here we go, that example I talked about, lifting up the vibrance and pulling down the saturation. And what I would probably want to do with an image like this is crop it in. There's too much going on in the foreground that doesn't tell me a story. This tells more of a story, a cruise ship going out to sea with people down the side. So nice. Wow. Okay. What a wonderful example of some things that I spoke about earlier today, which is give me context. Show me where this is. Clearly the focus here are these three stunning rocks that are jetting out of the earth. But if we'd have focused in on that, we wouldn't have got the scale of how big these rocks are compared to, it looks like two enormous lakes and multiple mountain ranges. So this is a great example. We've got a nice moody sky. It feels like I'm in Middle Earth. You know, some hobbits are gonna walk by at some point. But it really is a fantastic example of a panoramic image. So congratulations, Nigel Barnes. Great work. Another great example was showing off everything in this image. We've got great reflections. We're seeing the top of what we're reflecting, different colors for the sky and the water in the ocean. Saravanan Sankar, great work. I think you've done a good job there. Nice. Keep moving. Okay, so we've got a mountain. We've got a leading line going up to it. Unfortunately, my eyes are drawn right here. Too much of this wall. You know, we've got a beautiful mountain. I feel like if you walk around the next corner, we might have got that mountain range. So Sebastian Rosenblatt, great work, but I think just thinking about what is the focus of an image? What is the focal point? What do I want to look at and make sure we see that? But overall, in terms of your editing, your coloring and everything like this, really, really great job. A very moody sky. Let's see what we've got in the details here. Okay, so this is another example where we've got the trees and the sky, but we don't have the ground. We try to cut out some tents, but I would have been more tempted to include the tents, go down, go wider, show me the sky and the ground. It's going to be a little bit more interesting there, Tristan Dyer. Okay, let's see this. This is a great landscape. We've captured the whole thing. Unfortunately, we have cut off the shadow down here. Not the shadow, the reflection in the water. And we've added a little bit of fancy color in the top corner. I probably wouldn't have done it because the rest of it looks very realistic, and the pink in the top corner kind of detracts a little bit from this massive rock. But Thorsten Westhider, I do like this image a lot. Let's keep going. Okay, so this is, I see what I'm looking at here. This is from the same person. I see what I'm looking at here, but again, I'm not seeing all of it. I just want to see more. Yaksh Patel, really great here. We've cut off the side of this round. There's obviously a mountain range. I want to see the mountain range. And also, the colors are a little bit overdone here. You've added some graduated filters. I feel like the color's a little over the top, and I just don't believe it as an image. Oh, this is beautiful, Bomkesh Bakshi. Looks like, you know, we've got a person here. It is a landscape. We're showing off a little bit more of a situational piece. I don't know if this is in Nepal or somewhere like that. It looks like it is to me. Beautiful work. I would maybe have wanted to stud where this lady is in the hope to get somebody else to get more of the mountain range. But really beautiful job. I like this image. I think that we just need more of it. We're obviously showing this, maybe it's a temple, but I just want to see more of the mountains. More of the mountains on that image. This is a black and white image. We've captured the sunlight coming across. Nice, but we've lost too much in the shadows. So I'd want to bring those shadows back, maybe lift the exposure of the whole thing. Try and bring some more back there. Again, we just don't have enough of that mountain range. We're just zoomed in too far, I think. Another similar thing like that, we're missing on the left-hand side. The mountains are clearly getting bigger and going somewhere. If there's a bigger mountain that we can see, show me the biggest mountain. Now I just want to see what's not in the photo as opposed to what is in the photo. But I do like the sun lighting up this building over here. That's a beautiful job on that element of the composition. Interesting, we've got a car driving through. You need to be on a tripod or a faster shutter speed. It's a little blurry. And while this is great, I think that we need more focus. So this is an example of maybe we would want to bring in a vignette on this one. I'm not the biggest fan of vignettes, but if we were to vignette that in just a little bit like so, we might be able to bring a bit more of a focus to the car just there. Okay, any more questions? Because we're not gonna go live in a minute. We're gonna kind of wrap it up. Okay, I'm gonna go through these last few photos just here. Landscape with a subject in it. Beautiful shot here. I think you've done a great job. Just watch out for those vignettes on that image. But outside of that, I think this is beautiful. Let's skip through to a few others. Great skyline here. I'd have gone for a long exposure to blur out the ocean. I think that's what I would have done just there. Oh, I don't know why I just did that. This, a little heavy on the sky, I think. Two more photographs. I'm going to scroll through here. We're going to go to this one over here. Long exposure. You've got the sky. You've got everything. Arnold Killian. Beautiful work. I want to say it's in Switzerland. I don't know why. But I like that. I'd have maybe cropped out this bottom corner here. And then I'm just going to take a look at this image here. Lots of greens, lots of yellows. Need to see more of that image. Okay, so we're going to end this live show. I went on for a very long time today. That's purely because I had so many images. Maybe in the future I'm going to get to less images because so many people are now tuning in. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up and hit that little bell button on here so that you'll get a notification when we go live next. This was Ed Gregory from photosincolor.com, and the live feed is out. Thank you.